Okay, and we are live. Welcome everybody to our first show. It's kind of a test stream. We have my co-host here, Illuminati.
Hello,
Illuminati,
hello.
why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? You know, your channel, what you aim to do, and all that good stuff.
I am Illuminati underscore on YouTube. I primarily set out to do reviews and overviews on books and add my thoughts to stories that we all absorb and love. But I do time to time do top tens, top fives, a lot of hauls because I love buying books and I'm kind of nuts like that. But I love all things pop culture, which is very similar to that of Labruski.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see here, James. He already has your YouTube channel in the comments. He's on top of it always.
The man.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you could do this with me. I'm very excited. Today we're going to talk about the DC Absolute lineup, just the main three books that are out so far. And then we are also going to talk about the Penguin show that just ended its first season. And I'm very excited to get into that. We're going to talk spoilers. We'll have a non-spoiler section too. For those of you who have not watched it already, please do so in return. So Illuminati, tell me, what have you been reading? Anything good?
Well, I've recently jumped back into trade paperbacks. So for
Awesome.
anybody that does not know, I did single issues for a very long time, then jumped into trade paperbacks and then into omnibuses and hardcovers.
Yeah.
And I tried to keep myself very strict to the rule of hardcovers only. But recently, probably want to say a month or two ago, I started diving back into trade paperbacks. So I've been reading a lot of those, and I have my top reads right here, which we can go over.
Perfect.
I think I already talked to Labruski really about all of these books, but Beneath the Trees, Where Nobody Sees, that's what it is. I was going to say that. Great book. Absolutely loved it. Murder mystery, very reminiscent of the show Dexter. Sorry if my lights are too bright there.
No, it looks good.
And then we have Step by Bloody Step. Great story. There's probably maybe 6 speech bubbles in the entire story, which I think leaves the entire story to be very ambiguous. And I think everyone can kind of get different meanings from it.
What's that one about? I feel like I heard about that one, and I wanted to check it out. I gotta add that to my list here.
So it's hard to say what it's about because I'm sure the way that I absorbed it's different since there's no really story. It's just told through the art. But from what I put together and the headcanon that I created is a little girl and her older sister. The older sister is kind of a guardian of sorts, a large, almost like medieval knight that keeps her younger sister safe as they venture to a time portal. And then when we get to that time portal, something very important and kind of story changing happens, which is really interesting once you get there. But that's what I think it's about. I'm sure everybody has different thoughts behind it, though.
Cool.
The other one that I read is Headlopper.
I heard about this one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Andrew McLean. I think it's McLean. He does writing and art on it. It's very, very cartoony, but you do have Mike Spicer, who is the colorist on Daniel Warren Johnson books. He colors this as well, and it's very apparent for anybody that thinks like colorists aren't very important. You tell right away that's Mike Spicer, and he really changes up the art there. And then this one I've talked about on other streams, and I think I'm going to champion it until the day I die, which is It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
I read that. I think I read that book in one night. I read it about a year ago around this time. So freaking good. I immediately read that, and then I bought her other book, The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott. Have you checked that one out yet?
No, I do plan to pick that up because they mention it so many times in the story, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
okay, I need to read this thing.
It's a good read. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And it's also, I feel like, at least her solo work. I know she did Rain,
Mhm.
which I read. I think I read a couple issues of that. I don't think she wrote it, and then she also, I think she did a run on Hack and Slash, which I feel like she did write. I
Yeah.
haven't read that one though. I do want to check that out, but I feel like the impending blindness of Billy Scott is somewhat autobiographical too.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like a lot of her work is that you see. It's definitely, she pulls a lot from her real life, which I think is interesting. And I feel like It's Lonely at the Center of the Universe, or the Earth, is like super. She's like so open about everything, like her struggles with mental illness and just
Yeah.
things people do not want to talk about. She's an open book. So I think that's pretty awesome. And yeah.
I actually picked up that hack and slash book that you're referencing, and
Okay.
to contribute to you pulling from herself in her work. I mean, even in that, it's very apparent that she does pull from herself and kind of her. Even if she's writing a different character, just her image, you can see a
For
lot
sure.
of her characteristics in the characters that she draws.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I love her art too.
Yeah,
She's like one of my favorite artists now.
yeah,
She's in probably like the top three. Like anything that has her name on it, she's one of those writers slash artists that it's an immediate purchase for me, pretty much.
yeah. I would really like to see her. Same with Philip Kennedy Johnson or Daniel Warren Johnson. Jeez.
Yeah,
Um, I would like to see her and Daniel Warren Johnson on something ongoing, and I know they're very
that would be great.
obviously busy in their own like
Yeah,
self-publishing and self just work in general.
creator owned. Yeah,
But I would love to see them on something just ongoing for Marvel, DC, or even Image, just to see a consistent amount of work put out by those creators because they really are great. I co-sign you saying how good she is, and because she really is incredible.
yeah. And Daniel Warren Johnson. I mean, he's another one too where I know I read Murder Falcon, which is amazing. I have not read Do a Power Bomb yet. I'm waiting for the deluxe. It's not even announced yet. So I think at this point, like, I hear such good things about it. I just want to read it. So I think I'm just gonna buy the trade paperback, and
Yep.
I'm sure I'll love it, and I'll just upgrade it when there is some sort of deluxe. And the new Extremity, I have not checked that out yet. That's on my want list. I'm gonna buy that eventually. Probably around, I don't know. We'll see if it like maybe goes on sale around Black Friday or closer to the holidays. That's one I'm super excited to check out. I
Yeah.
I mean his artwork's fantastic. Have you read any of the his Transformers stuff? Have you read any of that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I read volume one, which has another trade paperback that I picked up recently. Yeah, just mind blowing and incredible stuff. Easily one of the best first issues of a series I've ever read.
Oh, is that
Um,
right? Wow.
yeah, because it hits the ground running.
Yeah.
It's not a slow burn title by any means, and I think
Mhm.
in today's generation where like the focus is a little short spanded,
Yeah.
you don't have as long to make a splash these days. So I think his writing style and his art that is immediately up in your face is just killing it when it comes to the comic book world in general.
Now, do you need to know? Because I'm not too familiar with Transformers. I kind of grew up with it with like the Michael Bay movies and whatnot, but
Mhm.
I mean, I even when I was a kid, I wasn't crazy about those films. So do you need to have like a knowledge of that world, or can you kind of go in blind?
I think you can mostly go in blind. I think if
Cool.
at least know who the familiar faces are, Optimus Prime, Starscream, Bumblebee, all
Sure.
those typical characters.
Yeah.
I think you can go in blind and just kind of wing it, and you'll be pretty safe.
Cool. Yeah, because I know there's a deluxe coming out. I think soon. I feel like.
Yeah, I was just made aware of that after buying the trade paperbacks by
Oh, is that right?
a member of my community message or commented, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just get volume 1 of all these and at least check them out beforehand.
Sure. Okay, let's see here. Thoughts on the new Doctor Doom comic? Have you read that? I have not read that.
I have not read that. Nope.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, there's a lot of hype around it. I think it was a one shot too. I could be mistaken though. But yeah, no, I've not read that. So Jack, if you have opinions on it, please feel free to share. So anything else you're reading?
I'm also finishing up the Peter David Incredible Hulk reread, Omnibus Volume 2.
Okay.
That's all material I've already read. I'm just kind of, rereading it, making my way through my collection again. Yeah, and I've really been enjoying that. It's taken me a lot longer than I wanted it to because of work and, crazy stuff that's going on in life. But
Sure.
this is the part of the Peter David run that really starts to pick up. The first one is horrible. I don't really like it at all. But the second volume really picks up and gets good.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read that. I do hear that Peter David's run is kind of the most infamous Hulk run. I know with the Immortal Hulk now. That's pretty popular too. I haven't read that one either.
Yeah, I think Peter David's run is just more like regarded as the run that put a lot of like building blocks in place or built upon a lot of building blocks that were already there. So it's looked at as like the definitive run as far as the character goes.
And is all of Peter David's run of the Hulk, are they all collected in Omnis now?
Yeah.
There's quite a few, isn't there?
Yeah, 5 volumes. Yep.
Holy smokes. Have you read them all, or are you still?
I've read I think there's some issues out of volume 5 that I didn't read, but I've read his entire run from beginning to end.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that one out. That one is on my list to read eventually. Usually what I'll do is because I would say I'm definitely more of an indie comic reader, but I do collect and read a lot of, Marvel and DC. But what I like to do is kind of flip flop between Marvel and DC. And then also, I'll just have a streak of just indie comics. So right now I feel like I'm kind of on the tail end of like superhero comics. I'm reading Green Lantern by Jeff Johns and also Superior Spider-Man. I got that omnibus and I'm really enjoying that.
So what's the titles that you recently finished, and then also what are your thoughts as far as those 2 titles that you have gotten into?
Yeah, so I read Green Lantern Rebirth, right? That's the start of Jeff Johns' run, correct? Yeah, so I read all that. I think there's like 5 issues collected in that, which was good. I was definitely a little confused at the beginning because I've never read Green Lantern before, and I don't really know a whole lot about the character, honestly.
Yeah.
So I was going in pretty blind, but a lot of people say that's kind of a great jumping on point for the character.
Yep.
And he's always kind of intrigued me. So I read a lot of that, and I found this reading guide online of Jeff Johns' run, and then also the Green Lantern Corps. So I was kind of flip flopping. So I read, I don't know, 13 issues, probably more of the Green Lantern Corps. And then also, I think I'm on like issue 16, 17 of just Jeff Johns' run of Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. I think honestly, I may take a bit of a break right now, just because I have a hard time reading more than one thing at once. I really like to. I don't know. I get plot lines confused and whatever. So I think I'm going to take a break from that. I don't own the omnibus or anything. I'm reading it on the DC Universe app, which is great. Honestly, it has a bunch of stuff on there. That's how I read Absolute Batman. They have the first issue for free. So it's good. I will say I'm a little, I guess, a little burnt out almost of the Green Lantern Corps now. Like I think I just kind of want to focus on when I do continue reading just Jeff Johns' mainline Green Lantern run. Um, and then if I ever reread it, or I could just read it after I finish, his run on just Green Lantern, I can go back and reread the Corpse.
Yeah.
And I may have a more appreciation for it. Superior Spider-Man, though, that's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
You said you were kind of new to Green Lantern. Are you
Yeah.
a Spider-Man fan? Like, are you as new to Spider-Man or no?
No, I've always been a Spider-Man fan. I guess for comics, relatively new because when I got into comics, 4 or 5 years ago now, I really was reading more indie comics,
Mhm.
Saga, Preacher, which I guess Preacher's kind of DC Vertigo, but still indie.
Yeah, toes the line
Um,
a little bit.
yeah. And I did read some Spider-Man stories when I first got into comics. Life Story by Chip Zdarsky, I believe, which is
Mhm.
wicked good. I do want to get his omnibus too because I haven't read his other stuff with Spider Man, but I do want to check that out. But so yeah, no. To answer your question, I am familiar more so with Spider Man than Green Lantern. So and I knew the premise going into Superior Spider Man that Doc Ock kind of took over Peter Parker's body and
Yep.
is now the Superior Spider Man. Um, so yeah, like I said, I think it's a lot of fun and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. I'm almost
It's a
halfway
blast.
through it.
I think most people regard that as Dan Slott's magnum opus.
I think so too. Yeah.
So that is the peak of the run. I mean, I would consider it as that, but I think the most fascinating part of Superior Spider-Man was when it was coming out in single issues and how the
Mhm.
community reacted. Like it was it was insane. I mean, it was as close to Nick Spencer Hail Hydra with Captain America. I mean,
Captain
people
America.
were
Yeah.
losing their minds
When
over Superior Spider-Man.
when did that come out? Superior Spider Man.
Oof. Um, I think it's
Maybe
there's 7 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna take a shot in the dark. Maybe 2016, 15,
2016.
maybe.
Was Dan Slott, was he writing Spider Man before that, or did he? Is this where he started?
I think he dabbled as far as Spider-Man goes. Like he was writing him, and then I think the actual run started maybe a handful of issues even before that. That if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
But he started writing at Big Time, that storyline. That's like everybody typically jumped on board, especially
Yeah.
because of the Big Time suit. But yeah, Superior Spider-Man is what put him on the map, I think. So
Okay.
even even though he started at Big Time, a lot of people just kind of consider that's when Spider-Man, Dan Slott's Spider-Man, like really started, was at that point.
Is Big Time, is that getting an omnibus?
I think so, yeah. I think Dan Slott's getting an omnibus. He wrote
Did
for a very long time, so it's going to be a lot of omnis.
did he write Brand New Day, or is that someone else?
No, that's Straczynski.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I got that.
Or
That
I'm
makes
sorry, Brand New Day is thinking of One More Day. Brand New Day is the think tank over at Marvel. It's like Mark Wade, um Dan Slott's on it, and then you have a bunch of artists from like Steve McNiven, John Romita Jr. So that's Brand New Day. One More Day is Straczynski. I misspoke there.
And that One More Day, that's isn't that kind of an infamous
Yeah,
story arc that everyone hates? That yeah. I
that's another one that broke the internet was when that came out. That
Yeah.
was crazy.
All right, let's check some comments here. That's my dad, by the way. Dad, we're gonna get to the Penguin here in a little bit. We got some comics to talk about. Then we have Dom of X in the chat.
Hey, what's up,
What's up,
Dom?
Dom? Um,
Check out his channel, by the way,
Yeah,
because that dude is a encyclopedia of releases and comic book stuff, and
yeah.
has some pretty good opinions on characters like Wolverine, which if you watched a certain live stream, you would have seen. But
He just did a live stream with Jess and I'm John. I can't remember who else. It was on the Brave and the Boys channel. They were going over new releases this
nice.
week, so I just watched that. So let's see it. Yeah, I mean, are you reading anything else, or is that kind of it? You think? I'm trying to remember. I'm reading One Piece.
What?
Yeah, I started One Piece.
That's
I've
ballsy.
watched the show. I watched like half the show. Like I'm on like episode 520 or something, and I got to Fishman Island that arc, and I just kind of fell off. I was like, and it's kind of a good place to take a break too.
Yeah.
And that was like over a year ago now, and so I was like, you know what, I want to read something fun and kind of light that I can just like turn my brain off at night or whatever. And it's been great so far. I'm only on like issue or chapter like 15, I think, but I
How's
mean, I'm
the
loving it.
how's the transition between comic books and manga been? Do you think you kind of just picked it up right away, or
For One Piece, yeah. I mean, I feel like I've read some manga before, like One Punch Man. I've read quite a few volumes of. I'm trying to think what else. I can't think of what else I've read. Oh, Chainsaw Man too. So I feel like once I read like maybe like a few pages, it's like my brain flips a
like
switch, and
rewires?
I'm just used to it now, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I go back, I have to kind of like flip that switch again to get used to reading up Western comics. Um, but yeah, no, it's been great. I'm really enjoying it. So, and I do want to read Berserk soon too. That's going to be a read coming up here where
Yeah.
because I bought the volume one, like the big library edition, because I'm like, that's sick. I need to own that. And yeah, I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet though, but I'm very excited too.
Berserk is the best thing that I've ever read in any medium, whether it's manga, comic books, novels, whatever it may be.
Oh, is that
Berserk,
right? Wow.
yeah, Berserk takes the cake. Yeah, and I always tell people, like, obviously jump into Berserk, like it's so
Yeah,
good, bro. But when you start with Berserk and the that's your jumping on point for manga, it really kind of ruins the medium of manga in a way, because you will never reach that high again. At least I haven't, and a lot of people
sure.
I've talked to haven't, and it kind of stinks because you're expecting everything to be Berserk quality, but it is
It's
not
not.
Berserk quality.
It's
Yeah.
funny you say that because and this is just my opinion about comics. I read Saga, which is my favorite comic of all time, early on, and Saga is like a great comic, like one of the
Yes.
best comics in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I read that. That was like probably like my third series that I really got into, and I compare everything to Saga almost. Not like on a story basis, you know, but I'm
Yep.
like, was it as good as Saga? It's like no, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have not reached that level yet of like, I don't know. There's been a few that have been close. Something's Killing the Children. I really like. Preachers, another one that just, you know, it's just fantastic. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I kind of always, I kind of always, it's like I'm chasing the dragon, kind of, you
Yep.
know. And
Yeah, that's how I am, funny
Saga's the
enough,
dragon.
with um Green Lantern by Jeff Johns.
Oh,
So
is that right?
that's my favorite superhero comic book
You
run
were
in
saying that,
comics
yeah,
ever. And everything I dive into, I just compare it to that.
yeah,
And if it doesn't feel like that, I'm like, but I'm also like a really bad critic, even though I try to review comics.
no, yeah,
I kind of like all comics. I can read like something that's horrible and find something that I like, but nothing has ticked the box that Green Lantern by Jeff Johns.
sure. Yeah, no, I get that, and that's how it is with Saga for me. It's funny you say that. That like you said that you're like a bad critic. Like I kind of feel the same way. Like I read it something, I'm like, yeah, you know, I liked it. It was good, but you know, a lot of things it doesn't like blow it, you know, out of the water or whatever. But I don't know. I whenever I read, I can kind of always find something to enjoy in it, and I'm like, yeah, no, it was good. It was
Yeah.
good. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and
It's just,
I'm also, like, kinda the opposite of that too, like, I'm still waiting to read a title that makes me beyond outraged, you know? Like, you see
sure.
these people on the internet that, they're losing their mind, they're so upset, they're like, "I'll never read," insert writer here's comics again, and I just haven't had that yet, and I feel like there just hasn't been something that has, pissed me off enough
Yeah,
or I don't know, but I like everything that I read. It's kinda
yeah.
weird.
I mean, it's a good problem to have, though.
It is. It is,
It
yeah.
is. It is. All right. Let's see. Sour Diesel asks, any plot villain theories for Batman Part Two after watching The Penguin? It's a great question. That is something I definitely want to get into.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I think we should talk about the comics first. Let's see. She also says, feel the same way with the anime about DBZ and then Evangelion. I don't know how to say that.
Evangelion.
Yeah, I actually watched that anime too. I don't think I finished it though, but I watched
Pretty
the
great.
majority of it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the Penguin first and then go to the comics? So that
Yeah,
way we
let's
can.
I mean, it seems like there's some demand on Penguin, so
I know
let's
my
talk about
dad's
that.
asking for it. I don't know. I don't know if he'll be awake by the time we get to it, so we might
Th
want to get to it.
That's why he's rushing to it. He's like, "I'm
I
ready to
know.
go to bed.
I
Come
want to
on."
go to bed, man. Come on. Um. Okay. Yeah. So what would you rate it? I'm like just kind of a blind rating scale of 1 to 10. What would
You
you
know,
give
I
it?
I thought about this after finishing it. So for anybody I just finished it last night, so it's pretty fresh
Yeah.
in my brain. Um, I would rate it pretty high. I would probably say like a 9.5.
Yeah. No, I think that's where I would put it too. Probably definitely above a 9 for
Yeah.
sure. Like
Yeah.
I made a review on it and I said it's one of my favorite TV shows ever now. Like it's
Yeah.
up there for me with The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Like it's that, like it's just that level of quality almost for me. Um, so yeah, let's get into that. Let's try to be spoiler free, I guess. I made a banner for it. And then also we do have another comment here. I do. Is that an inside joke?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
All right. Let's see. So let's I guess let's just talk about the characters first.
Okay.
So let's start with Oz. What do you think of Oz now that you watched the entire show?
Um, my biggest takeaway, which I think was the thing that I probably repeated the most while watching, is I could not believe that was Colin Farrell.
I know. I would always forget that. I
Yeah,
and I'll watch like interviews with him and I'm like, it's insane to me. That's the same dude. That's the same actor.
and it
It's
really impressed me when there would be scenes where there would be, some form of background light, a neon light or whatever it may be, and I would see the pores of his skin, and it's
Mhm.
obviously
Yeah.
not his skin. And I think the standout aspect of this entire show has to be the makeup crew.
Yeah.
Before anything, just because of Penguin alone. I mean, that was just breathtaking. But yeah, that was the main thing that I took away is I can't believe that's Colin Farrell every single time.
Yeah. No, it's such a big disconnect,
It
and
is.
um I was watching an interview with the actress who plays Sophia, Kristen Milotti, I think that's how you say it. Um and she was saying how that she would just talk with Colin Farrell out of makeup, and it took her brain a second to realize like, oh, that's the same person I was acting with for 6 months. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just crazy to me. But no, I Colin Farrell is fantastic in the role. He definitely deserves an Emmy. Like, I don't think.
Yeah.
Granted, to be honest, I'm pretty biased about this show. I just love the character of the Penguin so much. Like, he was by far my favorite part about the Batman film.
Yep.
And I also haven't watched a lot of new shows this year, so I definitely think he should win the Emmy based off of that.
Yes.
But
I agree.
yeah, I think Sophia Falcone, the actress too, she definitely deserves an Emmy. Like,
yeah, the look in her eyes during scenes, she did a lot of acting with her eyes. That's the thing I noticed the most.
mhm.
And the like, crazy unhinged kind of aspect of her character due to, obviously what she went through being portrayed through her eyes and scenes, and her smile specifically. That was another part where it kind of showed you just how capable incredible actors are, where they can
Yeah,
not even say a scene or not even say a thing on the scene and portray
right.
emotions and act through a sheer smile and their eye movement. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I think there's a saying where it's like 90% of acting is reacting.
Yep.
And I think that that holds true very well with what you just said with Sophia. Because I do agree. It's the subtle things that makes the performance so well.
Yeah. And
Um,
going back to the penguin, like as far as like the subtleties too, like the mannerisms, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
if Penguin didn't say anything in a scene and it was like his silhouette or something, I mean, just the body language, the walk, all of these aspects that were added to the character to personify the Penguin, I think was incredible. Again, a aspect of acting that nobody thinks of. Everybody thinks it's, lines and quotes and, all this, but the body language is huge when it comes to portraying somebody that's intimidating or, deranged, whatever it may be. And I think they knocked it out of the park.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I think whenever Oz is on the screen, he just has such a presence,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say that's true with like Sophia too. I mean, Oz. I think it's episode 4 where maybe it's episode 3 where Oz is really not in the episode at all. It's just Sophia,
Mhm.
and it's still like, I mean, personally, I missed Oz during that episode, but it was still great, watching
Yeah.
just Sophia's kind of origin story, if you will. Um, and I feel like there's so many tragic characters in the show, and I, it's fun. I feel like Oz kind of has a hand in every character and their tragic backstory almost. I guess besides Vic a little bit, but we can get into kind of the
Yeah.
outcome and what the Penguin does with Vic later. Um, but I mean, with like Sophia going to Arkham, I mean that is kind of Oz's fault almost, unintentionally. But I can't imagine he lost any sleep over the outcome, with her going to Arkham at
Yeah.
his doing.
No.
Essentially. I don't think he cared. And then
Especially
also,
after the end. I mean,
oh,
we
I know,
definitely
yeah.
know dude does not lose any sleep
No,
at all.
none, none. And then we also see Oz's impact with his mom too, right? Which I guess we're kind of getting to spoilers. I'm just gonna put the banner up for spoilers because I'm definitely gonna mention
Slip up.
something that's a big thing. So, um, yeah, I mean, we see that with his mom and Oz's backstory about his brothers, who drowned, and I find it interesting too that there's a parallel between Oz's brothers drowning and then Vic's family drowning, with the
Mhm.
flooding.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I noticed that, and I was trying to figure out like, okay, what's the deeper meaning there? But I couldn't figure it out. I'm bad with subtext sometimes, and I
Yeah.
really have to kind of like ponder in something to figure it out. But I just found that interesting that their families kind of died in similar ways.
Yeah. Similar ways, but then not so similar details.
Right. Yeah. No.
Because I
Absolutely.
mean that scene, I watched the whole show with my wife, and the entire time during that scene, she's just gripping my arm. I mean, she's
Yeah.
just like, I cannot believe that just happened, and that is the origin behind his brothers and
I
how they
know.
died. And I told her, I said, well, you got to remember, like, this is a story about a villain. It has
Yeah.
you rooting for him a lot through the entire show,
Yeah.
but he is a bad guy. He is not a good guy,
Yeah.
and it's crazy that it can make you do that.
No, absolutely. And I think part of the brilliance of the show is, especially at the end, major spoilers here with Vic's death. You know, for me, throughout the entire show up until that point, I was rooting for the Penguin, you know, even after kind of learning about what happened with his brothers. I feel like it's kind of left up in the air whether he intentionally did that. Like,
Yeah.
did he know what he was doing? And I think he did at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's that he did, especially with how his mom knew about it the entire time. Like
Yep.
I definitely feel like Oz, he knew what he was doing. Um, and yeah, I mean, he put his brothers to death, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I think the subtext behind that, which I think was like a subtext that was present through the entire thing, is Penguin or Oz constantly feeling like ownership over things, whether it was
okay,
Gotham or the criminal underground or whatever it may be. Like whenever he spoke about things, it was all his. And I think the ownership or the controlling view that he had with his mother
yeah,
that obviously led to his brothers dying. I think that was a subtext that they just kind of kept hinting at and planting those seeds even in your mind as a viewer. Like, did he kill his brothers? And then when we see that scene, we're like, wow, this guy really sucks. And we
yeah,
finally learn the truth, you know?
for sure, for sure. And I feel like up until the finale, the show, when they revealed the backstory with his brothers, like I said, I feel like it's kind of left up in the air.
Yeah.
His intentions, did he know what he was doing? Did he not? But I think in the finale, it's revealed and essentially told, like, yeah, he knew what he was doing. You know, he did that on purpose.
Yeah. I think the closing of the door, like, I think initially could be viewed and blamed as like some childish level of innocence, like, oh, I'm
Sure,
going to show them, but I think the raining and how often he kept turning and looking at the rain,
sure, yeah, the window, yeah.
yeah, I think that was like kind of the hint of he kind of knew what was happening and he was hoping that it was happening.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, when he looks at the window on the window sill, there's a cup and it's
Yep.
filled with water now.
Yep.
So I think you're right. I think he knew,
Yeah.
you know, he did know what he was doing. Um, but I think the show does such a good job at the end of showing us, you know, almost like uh, pulling the rug underneath our feet of like, oh wait, no, this is a bad guy. Like this is a villain. We're not supposed to root for him.
Yep.
And you know that's kind of revealed with Vic's death.
Yeah.
Um, and at that point, I feel like everyone hates it now. Like I see so many posts of like clips from the Arkham games of Batman beating up the Penguin, and
Yeah.
then you know the captions like I can't wait to see Batman Part Two where Oz is going to get his ass beat, and I think the show did a brilliant job with that, and really what Vic's role was the entire time. Like looking back, I think he was definitely the heart of the show, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and I feel like a part of it was um he was our eyes into Oz's world, you
Yep.
know, how we feel about Oz. That you could almost parallel that with how Vic feels about Oz too,
Yep.
how he kind of looks up to Oz, you know, and how the, you know, us as the audience loves Oz, you know, and wants to see him win. He's almost kind of like an anti-hero for a majority of the show, you know,
Yeah.
like Tony Soprano. There's a lot of parallels between Oz and Tony.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
I
go ahead.
I think the subcontext behind that too, which I think was a really nice touch, was what he decided to do with Sophia, right? So he obviously has her dead to rights, end of the show, and you're thinking, the
Mhm.
trigger pull, this is how it's going to end. And he, in a lot of ways, spares her. And we obviously learn that in even more ways, it was kind of worse than death, what he condemned her to.
Yeah.
But that choice to spare her almost puts you on another level of a high of, oh man, Penguin really isn't that bad of a guy. He's just trying to do right, but for his family, for his mother, for Vic. And then we
Yeah.
get into the Vic scene, and I think all of those building blocks that we built in our own head about that character just come tumbling down immediately, and it's heartbreaking. That was another scene watching with my wife the whole time. Vic's struggling and
I know. Oh my God.
scraping and gripping at Penguin's hands. She's
Yeah.
just clawing at my arm like I'm Penguin, and it's like it's heartbreaking. It was crazy to see that scene, and I almost kind of felt like it was coming multiple times through the show. So it's weird that I was so surprised by it, but it did catch me off guard end of the day, which is pretty impressive.
See, I really thought Vic was gonna make it out alive. I thought he would be a character in Batman Part 2 up until that scene when they're sitting on that park bench late at night.
Yeah.
I really thought he was gonna pull through. And then once we see that scene and once they start talking and I kind of saw where the conversation was going, I was like, oh my God, no, here it is. And I guess that just goes to show the brilliance of the writing of the show.
Yeah, I think the seed that planted it in my head was the meeting with the congressman when he said, "You need to be clean."
Yeah.
That almost immediately planted a seed in my head that, like, okay, everybody needs to die. That's just how this needs to work,
For him,
For him to be truly clean, he needs to have no connection, which even though at the end we still see like a loose end of sorts with Eve. So I don't know exactly how that works. I mean, I get their relationship dynamic and what she's meant to represent, but I would still consider her a loose end because she knows a lot. But
I didn't think about that, but I think you're definitely right. Like she knows that Oz killed Falcone's son, who Alberto. So I mean, she's not oblivious to what he does for work either.
Yeah.
She definitely, and she's smart. She definitely knows what's going on in his life. So that is interesting that he didn't, I guess, take her out. And especially, I mean, she betrayed him.
Yep.
She gave up where he was to Sophia, which I guess, he never found out about her. I can't imagine he would let her, live. But I guess that kind of brings me into my next talking point that I wanted to mention was Oz's and his mom's relationship and how that feels very transactional. And then with what's her name? What's her name? Oh my gosh.
Which character?
The one that is like the love interest for Oz. You just mentioned her name.
Oh, Eve. Yep.
And how it's a similar thing where she's like a prostitute,
Yeah.
And that relationship is completely transactional. So I found that interesting, the parallels between their relationships.
Yeah, and I definitely kind of was dabbling with the idea that they explored at the end, with thinking that like, oh, she's going to be more of a mother figure that he can have in Gotham and not have to hide. And I think that end scene where he calls her Ma and she's wearing his mother's dress, I think that was where we already learned that he was a bad guy, but I think that's where we really learned, oh, okay, he's also kind of unhinged.
Yeah, he's a sick dude.
Yeah, he's definitely has some form of romantic attraction to his mother, and Eve is that placeholder now, which is even more kind of demented and weird to even think about.
It is, yeah. He's definitely a sick dude, and I feel like we kind of knew that. We didn't know the full extent, I guess, with Eve's and his relationship, because I can't imagine her dressing up as Oz's mom is a new thing all of a sudden. Like, I'm sure that was going on years before. So I mean, he's twisted in the head, and
I think they hinted at that was the, what he liked when Sophia interrogated, or whatever you would want to call it, Eve in her apartment, and she straight up asked Eve, what does he like? And Eve kind of, alluded to, I know what he likes, but I also know what he is, and it was like, once again, another kind of nugget of detail planted, but not revealed until the right moment.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. That's interesting. Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, so I don't know, and I loved Francis as a character too. Like I look at Oz, Vic, Sophia, and Francis as like the four main characters, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought her actress and the younger actress too that played her in the flashbacks and stuff did an amazing job.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, like I was saying, I do feel like that relationship after the night at Monroe's with them
Mhm.
dancing and then her deciding not to have Oz killed. I feel like at that point the relationship is solely transactional. You
Yes.
know,
Yep.
Francis will give Oz what he wants, which is a loving mother and whatever, which I don't even know if he really got.
No.
And then Oz will hold up his end of the bargain and give her a life that she thinks she deserves.
Yep.
Um, so I don't know. I think that relationship is so twisted. It's I don't know. I feel like it's so unique in a TV show. Like I can't think of another show where a mom and son relationship is kind of played out like that. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, we typically see kind of more siblings like that,
Yeah,
in TV shows.
yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure. So I don't know. I mean, overall, like I said, I think this is like one of my favorite shows
Yep.
ever now.
And I also loved, um, that it felt very removed from the Batman, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think until the final scene where we see the bat signal turn on, I mean, you kind of forget you're even in that world. I mean, it
for
it
sure.
just feels like a gangster or crime centric TV show,
Yeah.
reminiscent to Sopranos or anything like that.
Mhm.
And I think that's awesome because one, it feels like its own entity. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's a Batman show, But
Right.
also at the same time, it's great for people that don't want to watch Batman beat up thugs. You can jump into this and get none of that and get a full-fledged show with its own roster of characters, its own story, and other nuggets of details. And I think that's really awesome to put something comic related out there that non-comic readers or non-comic media absorbers
Mhm.
can watch and really track and
Yeah.
follow and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I was talking with a friend last night, or maybe it was the night before, and we were talking about the Penguin. And she said she's like, "Yeah, I'll check it out." And she's not into comic books, not into comic book movies, like at all. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I heard it was really good." She's like, "Do you think I'd like it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I know she's like watched like Breaking Bad and whatnot, and kind of likes the drama shows. I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it really has nothing to do with Batman outside of it being set in Gotham City and the Penguin being the main character. Like, it never relies on Batman as a crutch to make the show good."
Nope. Yep.
And he's never really alluded to besides, like, the last scene.
Yep.
Like, it's not mentioned like, "Oh, yeah, there's some vigilante dressed as a bat roaming the streets." Like,
Yep.
no, it's never mentioned. And I would say, I guess, kind of a critique, which I think I I don't know, it's not a bad thing, but I feel like they coulda used it in some ways, is at the beginning of the Batman, it's alluded to that, the criminals they know about Batman and they feel his presence even when he's not there, like lurking in the shadows. So I feel like they could have done something with that where, they could have kind of hinted at it where Batman maybe he's lurking in the shadows and he's not, but there's still that presence there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that would be like kind of my only, I guess, gripe with the show. But like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that that
No.
wasn't in the show. Like, it doesn't make the show worse for me at all. Um, and ultimately, I feel like after the first episode dropped, the creator, I think her name's Laura LaFranc, I believe. Maybe it's Lauren LaFranc. Um, the showrunner, she said that, like, yeah, no, he's not going to appear. Um, and then Matt Reeves came out and said, like, yeah, no, do not expect Batman to be in the show at all. Like, he just won't be in the show. And so,
Wow.
going into it knowing like, oh yeah, he's not going to cameo. It was kind of refreshing because I feel like so many superhero shows now almost rely on the viewers to continue watching till that last episode to see that 2-minute cameo of Spider-Man or whoever. Like today I saw a headline that Tom Holland, Marvel's trying to get Tom Holland to be in Daredevil Born Again to cameo. And I feel like they're definitely like, what part is Spider-Man going to play in that story? Obviously I could be eating crow in 2 years when we finally see that show, and Spider-Man has a big part in it, and that cameo is kind of a crucial part. But I mean, kind of going off of what I know of Marvel and the other TV shows and movies, like they kind of just throw cameos in there just for fun, which is okay. It's fan service. I enjoy that, but I feel like a lot of the times, if there's going to be a cameo, it needs to play a part. And I was watching an interview with Matt Reeves, who he was explaining why they didn't do a Batman show, or I'm sorry, a Batman cameo. And they tried to fit it in, but it just took away from the other characters' stories. And so it's refreshing at the end of the day, almost like, oh yeah, we can get a solid comic book show, kind of a spinoff, just set around this other character, and not have to rely on a 2-minute cameo.
It's kind of a power move too, if you think about it.
Yeah,
putting out a show and knowing that everyone watching is waiting for that cameo, and just to never reveal it until, I mean, I guess we can kind of count the final scene as like some form of cameo.
A little bit, I suppose. But
like, oh, he exists, but like to not show anything and keep it Oz centric is, I mean, that's such a power move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say like with the bat signal, it's really just kind of like a wink and a nod, like, okay, Batman. And I feel like it's kind of foreshadowing what we might see in Batman Part 2 or Batman Part 3 of Oz now being really on Batman's radar as a threat. Because in Batman, Part 1, he's really not a threat,
No.
like he's just, he's one of Falcone's henchmen, and that's all he is. And he ties into the plot a little bit about them kind of suspecting he's the Rat, but even that, like, they don't look at him as a threat in any way. So I feel like going into Batman Part 2, Oz is he's going to be a much more menacing threat to Batman in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there was that scene where he goes up and takes his jacket off and takes his top hat off.
Yeah.
I perfectly timed with my wife right as he took off the hat, and I said, and the Penguin is born. And it was him in the Penguin suit putting down the top hat. And I mean, that's what we watched. We watched the birth of the true Penguin as a Batman villain, coming from, like you said, a henchman to now a full-on
Kingpin.
I mean, obviously not a super villain, but like a crime kingpin where he's a legitimate threat to the character of Batman.
He's the top dog in Gotham now.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that it's hinted at, really just in the finale, that he's gonna maybe try to be mayor. We see that with that scene in the courtroom where the councilman saying, like, if you want to be successful in this cleaner world, you got to look clean. And then him looking up and seeing the mayor's office, and you just kind of see like a glimmer in his eye of like, that's where I want to be. That's the next step. So I don't know. I don't think he will become mayor. I think it will be a plot line. Maybe there will be season 2. I don't know. They do a season 2 of him campaigning to become mayor. But I can't see him actually becoming mayor, but I could be wrong.
Now, here's my question to you, and this might be the question of sort that maybe can get the water boiling a bit for some watching, but what was the aspects of the show that pulled it back from being a 10? Like what do you think stopped it from being a 10 as far as the show itself?
That's a good question. I would definitely say, I don't know. I would definitely say them not having Batman be a presence. Like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like I would have appreciated it if you do kind of feel his presence
Yeah.
But I guess standing out as a show on its own, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What about you? What do you think? What's the one thing that kind of pulls it back from being a 10?
The one thing that I noticed almost immediately, I want to say by like episode 2 or 3, I kind of started to notice a little bit of the repetitive nature of the story where it was,
Mhm.
Oz gets on top, he falls down, he gets on top, he falls down, and they kind of continued with that
Okay.
repetitiveness
Rhythm,
when it
yeah.
came to the story. Um, which I didn't dislike, like, it was still entertaining, which is why
Yeah.
it's at 9.5, but I just started to really notice the rinse and repeat kind of feeling to some of those aspects of the story. And then, in episode, I wanna say 1, maybe even a little bit of 2, I noticed some scenes that just didn't feel as authentic, and I
Okay.
fully blame that on maybe the point of shooting. Maybe they weren't as comfortable with the character yet or whatever it may be. But Dick specifically, there was a couple scenes in that first episode where it just kind of didn't feel as, I don't know, flowy when it came to the line delivery and everything like that. So that would be the only two things that would pull it back. The repetitive nature of some of the episodes being the major thing that really knocks it down, like, point 0.4 of a point.
Sure.
But then the extra like little point 0.1 is just some of those scenes that felt a little forced. But then the rest of the episodes were like, I thought I was watching real people talking to each other and stuff. So it's not a deal breaker as far as the delivery of lines,
Yeah.
but the repetitive stuff was a little like, okay, let's change it up a little bit, just a
I
hair.
can see that. I don't know, I don't mind it though, because I feel like for me at least, part of the brilliance of the writing is is seeing Oz get out of those sticky situations where,
Yeah.
he's on top and then Sophia kind of messes up his plans and it's like, oh, he's caught dead to rights. What he's gonna do? And then he figures out a way out of it, whether
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times too, you're right, it does kind of bring him back down to the bottom and he has to get his way back up.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I mean, I don't know. I can see that where it can be very uh I guess repetitive, but I don't know. I never picked up on that. I didn't mind it. I guess one thing that thinking about it and kind of looking back is I feel like Oz, there were so many times where he should have been dead, you
Yeah.
know, and it's
Yep.
like where he is like he's caught, like how is he going to get out of this? And I feel like more often than not, when he's in those situations, the outcome probably would have been that, oh, he's dead, like he would have gotten shot or whatever. But, obviously it's his show. So I guess maybe that's kind of the one thing that knocks it down, those few points for me. Because I do feel like he's almost invincible in the
Yeah.
show, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so I don't know. I don't know. Um, let's see. It looks like we have a question here. We have Legion of Comics. What's up, homies? What's
Mhm.
up with you? Good to see you. Do you think Dr. Rush being introduced as Sophia's second hand and being part of this violent lifestyle a bit forced? Oh, that's an interesting question.
Mhm.
Okay. What do you think?
I personally thought it was very clear what his direction as a character was going to be. I called it, and now that I've called it, I'm like, because I stay away from spoilers online and stuff, so
Sure.
until I watch it. But now that I've called it, and then I go online and I'm starting to see the fan theories and how they think that direction is. But I personally think he's going to be Scarecrow. I mean, that's just my
I
my
think
thought process.
I Yeah, I think it would make sense. They don't like tease it really that he is
No.
Scarecrow, but I would not be surprised in any way if it turns out, oh, this is Matt Reeves is Scarecrow in the universe.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that would be good because we do kind of see him do almost experimental
Yep.
therapy, with the red lights, which maybe that's just what he kind of learned at Arkham. And obviously with the drug Bliss, I mean, I don't think that's standard procedure,
No, no, yeah,
So I could see him maybe developing into the Scarecrow. I will say I did not like his character, and
yeah.
I
Not
mean,
to
I think that was
interrupt.
intentional.
Yeah, not to interrupt, but that's another thing that took it down some points for me too was that actor.
Yeah.
He's kind of one note if I'm being
Okay.
honest, but you can carry on. That's I just forgot his name, but now that they've mentioned it, that was another aspect too.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's very unlikable on the show, and like you just kind of want to punch him. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found him to be like a very predatory with when it came to Sophia, like because you do feel sympathy for Sophia, especially after you learn her backstory. Like
Yeah.
she is almost you almost kind of root for her,
Yep.
and it's like, but anyhow, so I I don't know. I felt like that relationship wasn't. I just did not like it. Like I
Yeah.
said, it felt like he was kind of preying on her, and the scenes in Arkham with those two, especially where it's. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of find his character creepy and whatnot, but that's not necessarily a bad thing from the show. Like that's not necessarily a critique, but I think that's how they wanted him to come off. You
Yeah.
know.
I did feel he was a little shoehorned. I mean, I think him being kind of the saving light, at Arkham for Sophia
Mhm.
when it came to the dynamic between the two doctors. Rush was like, the good guy of sorts.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I enjoyed his character then. I almost kind of enjoyed the predatory aspects of his character that you're mentioning, where
Hmm.
it was almost romantic in a way.
Yeah.
But then when he like started getting involved in like, the day-to-day crime, I'm like, where the heck did this come from?
Yeah.
Like he just all of a sudden is like, I want to be involved. And Sophia's like, okay, and then we just move on from there.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I feel like I mean, he literally just like shows up at the
Yeah.
mansion and is like, whatever you're getting into, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess it does kind of feel a little rushed
Yeah.
that part. And I was almost kind of waiting for there to be kind of another like twist with that character.
Yep.
Where it's like, okay, he has other intentions. What are they? But it's never revealed. Where I
Yeah.
guess he's just even now, he got his job back at Arkham. It seems like he's just with it to be with Sophia almost.
Yep.
And I feel like there is that kind of power, definitely a power play where in Arkham, he has the power over her. And then, when he kind of joins up with her, clearly, she has the power over him and he enjoys that, it seems like.
Yeah.
Um, and now it's reversed again.
Yep.
So it's like maybe he enjoys having power and not having power. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that there's more to tell with that character. And
Mhm.
let's see here, Sour Diesel. She said something. You can see the scarecrow glove and mask on Julian Rush's desk. That's something I didn't pick up until I think like yesterday. I saw like a post about that. So that I missed that completely watching the show initially. Um, and I saw a theory that maybe originally the plans was to just make him the scarecrow,
Mhm.
and then they changed it for some reason, but just left that in there by accident. I don't know if that's the case. I feel like maybe you're right, Tyler, where they're just gonna make it him the scarecrow of this universe, which I would
Yeah.
find interesting.
I dabbled with him being Hugo Strange or
Oh,
Scarecrow.
yeah,
And not obviously his name's Rush, so he's not Hugo Strange, but that universe of Hugo Strange
sure.
type of character. Um, but I think what was kind of the defining factor is like once Bliss started getting involved and
Mhm.
how if you kind of flip Bliss on its head, you get the Scarecrow toxin. So, I started playing with that idea while watching, and then I'm like, that could be interesting, So that's what made me come to my little fan theory or conclusion there.
Interesting, interesting. And then let's see, there was another comment I wanted to talk about. Here it is. Legion of Comics. Dr. Rush was just an inverse Harley, like Vic was a Jason Todd flip. What do you think about that? Because I did see a lot of stuff online circulating just about that, where it is kind of an inverse of Harley, and then Vic is kind of an inverse of Jason Todd, and there's definitely parallels between
Yeah.
those characters.
Yeah, I picked up on the Jason Todd flip,
Mhm.
especially during the pulling of the rims on the Penguin's car. So I did pick up on
Yeah,
that, but I don't know. I don't know. I just I feel like there's so much room still to explore as far as the inclusion of a possible Robin, and I feel like the universe is very fitting to Jason Todd. So I feel like that's the route
interesting.
they would go if they went any Robin route.
Okay.
So I think there was just kind of, I don't know, a little bit of use of Jason Todd's type of story, but I don't think he's, the Jason Todd of this universe or
Yeah.
anything along those lines.
Yeah, I almost kind of look at that with him like stealing the rims and whatnot as almost just kind of like a nod to the character of Jason Todd.
Yeah.
Like I for me, like that's kind of where it stops. Like I don't see other parallels between those characters other than that instance where we're introduced to the characters just because they were stealing, rims off of cars.
Yeah.
Um, and then as far as Dr. Rush as an inverse of Harley, I guess kinda. Um But I feel like if they wanted to introduce Harley in this world, I think they still could and not feel like it's repetitive of this relationship with Dr. Rush and Sophia. Like in my opinion, there's still a lot of differences between those characters.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it really, for me at least, it just shows how corrupt a lot of people are in Gotham and
Hmm.
how everyone is they kind of look at the world as gray, not black and white, and Dr. Rush, um, like he's definitely not a good guy, but I wouldn't say he's like a bad guy. I mean, it's not like he killed Vic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's interesting to see. I kind of like it just that it just shows the corruption and I guess how easy people in this world in this Gotham are to turning to kind of like a life of crime,
Yeah.
and what that says about Gotham as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think it's meant to, in a lot of ways, personify Sophia's past, kind of following her too, because
Mhm.
obviously she's a character that's just tormented by her past in general.
Yeah.
Um, and you obviously have the inclusion of the family and the crime syndicate that her father built, kind of following her around because of her name. But
Yeah.
then you have the Arkham side of her story that's kind of following her around in the form of Dr. Rush. And I feel like the same way she idolized but also hated her dad, I feel like she has that same type of relationship towards Dr. Rush, which I think we kind of even saw in the scene where, they're obviously doing some naughty bits there.
Yeah. It was getting hot and
And
heavy. Yeah.
and she's hurting him while also doing that. So I
Right.
think it's again another like love-hate relationship of an aspect of her past, and he's
Yeah.
just the personification of that.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like because when we see Sophia, leaving Gotham or trying to, right? Where she
Yeah.
arrives at the hangar. Like, I don't think Dr. Rush was with her. Like, I don't think she had any intention on keeping that relationship up. Like,
No,
I
no,
think
yeah.
she was like, I'm done. I don't want any part of that, any part of the past. Like, she's just over it.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I find their relationship, um, I guess it's definitely complex.
Yeah. And I also think like even that scene, like I think she's such a complex character just in kind of general, if you think about
Mhm.
it, because
Yeah.
it's like even when you think of the attempt of trying to kill Oz constantly, like there's almost a level of it where it's not even a like she doesn't like him reasoning for wanting to kill him. It's more or less just for herself. She wants her entire previous life and everyone that was involved in it dead and gone, so
Mhm.
she can leave Gotham. Like, even when she's leaving Gotham, like, she just wants to kill Oz so she can go, and there's
Yeah.
nothing tying her to that place. And I just love the complexities of her character just in general, because it's like so many of her dialogue scenes and just scenes in general, you can really pick up on little details and little nuggets of her, traumatic past or her very obscure upbringing and stuff like that. And I really, really liked her character, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, is just the morally gray area that she kind of existed in, where it was all for herself and for her future, but then there was obviously her doing bad things, and it was just like, I don't know, another aspect of the show that was just so well done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I feel like, um, she stands side by side with Oz as far as, like, the performance from the
Yeah,
actress and just the character. Like, she's just as interesting and complex as Oz, you know? And I really almost feel like it's, kind of her show too, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And I'm excited to see where her character goes, right? Because it's kinda left up, in the air, like, what her role will be going forward, right? And
yeah,
we see that she kinda has now a glimmer of hope and I guess, I don't know, like, from Selena Kyle, Catwoman, um, who
yeah. Do
writes
you do you view, as far as Sophia goes, going back to her,
Mhm.
do you in some ways view her as the actual protagonist of the story and Oz as the antagonist?
That's interesting because this was something I was thinking about too, and I I don't. I think if anyone's a protagonist, I think it might be Vic,
Yeah,
because we start off the show with his character essentially, with and the show is just all really about his life with Oz. So I
yeah,
feel like if anyone's a protagonist, it would definitely I think it would be Vic, but um I mean I think Sophia is I don't think it's far fetched to think Sophia is the protagonist either, you know.
yeah,
But I almost kind of look at her not as an antagonist, but um, almost I guess more just like a victim of Oz,
yeah,
because it all
yeah,
started with Oz, the downfall of her life. Like if Oz wasn't around, I mean, who knows how it would have played out with her meeting with the reporter and like what that would have led to if Oz wasn't her driver. Um, but her downfall is really all on Oz, and then her relationship with her father, which is I almost feel like Falcone is like the true antagonist in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He's like such a bad dude,
Yeah, yeah,
like such a bad dude. And like, don't get me wrong, I think Oz is too. And I think Oz would do like those heinous crimes that Falcone did to those women. Like
yeah,
I don't, I think he would for sure. But obviously we don't really see Oz do any of that. And it's interesting too. I guess this is kind of a sidebar, but I do want to ask, do you think Oz knew about Falcone killing all those women and him being the real hangman?
yes. Yep.
You do? Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that. And I mean, I Oz is not a stupid guy in any way. Like he's a
No.
smart dude, you
No.
know. So I I don't know. I think he definitely did, and kind of learning more about Oz throughout the show and how much of a bad dude he really is, and how he really he's a sociopath. He really does not have any feelings for anybody but himself. I
No.
guess his mother, but even that, like that's twisted and distorted in its own weird way. Um, and he definitely betrayed Eve
Yep.
by just being complicit with those murders
Yep.
of all
Yep.
those prostitutes and women of Falcone being the hangman, which I think that's just kind of another thing to show that yeah, no, he's the villain that, from the comics. Like, he's not the anti-hero like Tony Soprano, which you could argue Tony Soprano is also a villain, but
Yeah.
I love Tony Soprano, I love The Sopranos. It's like one of my favorite shows too. And you root for Tony, I guess, more strongly than you do with like Oz, and then
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the only reason I truly feel that he knew about Falcone is mainly because of, if obviously the Penguin doesn't have any superpowers. We are
Mhm.
very aware of that, but if you had to like pinpoint a superpower, like, or his ability, it's always been like information. Like, he always gathers some form of leverage to
Mhm.
have on those that he wants to, manipulate or,
Yeah.
use, whatever it may be. So I definitely think he had his chess pieces prepared to move, maybe not so much moving, but prepared to move against Falcone once he felt he needed to. And
Sure.
I think that was probably a major, major chess piece, especially him
Interesting.
being the guy that's running the Iceberg Lounge, and that's where most of those girls worked and were killed and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I definitely think he was aware, but
That's
that could be
that's
headcanon or me connecting, just random dots, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I was thinking about too, like, pretty much just that, like, what did Oz have a plan in place of being, taking over Falcone
I
and being the
bet.
kingpin? And I think he did, but I think, Falcone dying and then the flood and, you know, everything else, I think it just sped up that process for Oz. And
Yeah.
I rewatched episode 1, I think a week ago now. And I was thinking about this when at the very beginning with Oz and Alberto, like, what was Oz's plan there? Was he gonna, did he
Yep.
have a plan to take it over? Like, because it said that, Oz killing Alberto is very compulsive, right?
Mhm.
Instinctual, which is what his mom says. So I don't know if Oz necessarily planned on killing Alberto right then and there. I think Alberto just said the wrong things, and Oz, I get Oz is almost like very sensitive, and
Yeah.
he's
I
very insecure, which I
I
find
think
interesting for a villain.
I think he definitely planned to, like, after the death of Falcone, I think he planned to make moves. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why he went into the Iceberg Lounge and found those photos, right?
right. Yeah,
So, as far as the murder of Al, I definitely agree that the plan wasn't meant to be it happening right there and right then.
sure.
But I think the big picture was to get to the top by killing or blackmailing everybody in his way. And I think we really see that even more present with his fascination of the pinky ring,
Sure. Yeah.
the Sal's ring that
Yeah.
Al has, and then at the end he takes off of Sal and puts on himself. So I think that in a lot of ways symbolizes who's the top dog, and that's why he was
Interesting.
so focused on it, because he wanted to be the top dog.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I didn't draw that connection between the ring being almost like a symbol of like, okay, who's in charge right now?
Yeah.
Um, so I find that interesting, and I yeah, I didn't think about it like that, and um, yeah, because I mean, Alberto, Oz gives it to Alberto, right? Or does Alberto already have it when they meet in the first episode?
Uh
I think
no,
Alberto has.
Al already has it. Al already
Yeah,
has it. Yep.
yeah. So then I guess you know, Alberto dies and Oz takes it, and then he gives it up
Yep.
to
Because it's
Maroni.
announced on the TV that that Al would be taking over the Falcone estate. And
Right.
then that's when Al kind of shows up and flashes the ring. And I think that's where you see Penguin kind of fall into place back into his, like, bottom of the totem pole role that he exists in, but only when he's acting. And
Yeah.
then obviously things follow, and first thing he takes out of that body bag is the ring when he packs up Al.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's interesting. And then Sour Diesel says there was a deleted scene from the Batman where he tells Selina the city will be his. That's interesting. I didn't know that. And then Sour Diesel also says he definitely didn't premeditate killing Alberto, though his insecurity made him snap, which forced him into fight or flight versus a more drawn out strategy. Yeah, no, I would
Howard
agree with
Diesel
that.
needs to be on this show. She's breaking it
I
down.
know, I know. I would agree with that completely.
Yeah.
Where maybe not the fight or flight. Like I think he just kind of he snapped and he was pissed. He's like,
Yeah.
fuck, fuck this guy. Who's he to say
Yeah.
this? And it's I like what his mom says, Francis says, where it's instinctual almost. There's a lot to unpack with the Penguin and then also the Batman too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuances to it.
Yeah.
Sour Diesel also said something that I want to make mention to, which I guess we can kind of use this to wrap up our Penguin conversation and move on to the comics. She has thoughts on the Court of Owls in future films. Look like owl silhouettes in the window curtains of the court scene in the Penguin. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think they're setting up the Court of Owls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to I feel like every time I say stuff like this, I'm like tooting my own horn, but I feel like the Court of Owls was established in the first Batman.
Okay, interesting.
And I think it was established when the Batman walks into, is it a abandoned orphanage, I want to say, with the film running?
Yep.
And it's showing all of the elites of Gotham and how they've been kind of running shady deals and being corrupt and everything like that. And I think as soon as I saw that scene in the Batman, I thought the next logical direction we would go as far as storyline and villain would be Court of Owls from there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
In this world, and honestly, I'm not huge on the Court of Owls. I do kind of find that villain to be a little lame in a lot of ways, and I think I'm definitely in the minority with saying that.
Yeah.
Like the Court of Owls, run with Scott Snyder is like incredible, which I have read and I did enjoy it, but I don't know. I think I'm such a more of a fan of his other rogues gallery that I'm like, I want to see what Matt Reeves does with like Two-Face and Joker and the Scarecrow and those other guys before Court of Owls. And like I said, I think I'm in the minority because a lot of people are talking about this. There's a lot of buzz about the Court of Owls. And a lot of people like them. And like I said, I do think it would make the most sense for them to be the villain. I think it would honestly kind of be cool for them to be like the big bad of the universe entirely. Like for them to because I think they're only doing 3 films for the Batman, like a trilogy. I think that's a plan right now, and maybe as they make more spinoffs, which I'm sure they'll do, especially with the success of this show. Maybe they'll expand it more to be more mainline Batman movies.
That's interesting. So you're Matt Reeves, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You've made the Batman. You're going into the Batman Part 2.
Yeah.
Where does Joker fall into all of it?
Joker's a tricky one too, where I don't know if they released a deleted scene.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that necessarily means he's like canon in the universe. I do think like there's a lot of like Barry Keoghan. I think that's the actor's name.
I think so, yeah.
He talks a lot about it, and hints at returning. So I think it's essentially canon that the Joker is going to be in the film. So I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of like Joker fatigue, especially with the new Joker movie that just came out, which I didn't see. I don't want to see it, to be honest, because it has such bad reviews and whatnot. So I do definitely feel that Joker fatigue. So I don't know where he would fit in, if he would be the villain in the Part 2 or if he would be a villain in Part 3.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I only ask because I actually do like your idea of the Court of Owls being the big bad. But I also I don't know if it's the comic book nerd internally that's saying I can't have a Batman trilogy without Joker appearing.
Joker, yeah.
So
sure.
I mean, the Court of Owls is definitely like a much larger threat when you think of, um, as far as threats go. And obviously, the Joker, we know he's very threatening, also. But
Sure.
the Court of Owls is essentially the Illuminati of the
Yeah.
Gotham
Gotham. Yeah.
underworld, or
Yeah.
or Gotham elites. So it's like, I mean, that would be pretty cool to be the big bad is, under Bruce's nose the entire time.
The entire time. Yeah, I agree, and I don't know, I like the idea of there being hints at the Court of Owls, like we see with the owl curtains in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And, I there are other hints I feel like in Batman and probably even in this show where they allude to the Court of Owls, where it feels like they're always watching,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I like the idea of them being almost revealed as the big bad of Gotham,
Yeah.
and almost like Batman's final enemy to fixing Gotham in a sense where,
Yeah.
it's a decent place to live, which is I don't think it is now.
And in a
um,
lot of ways, it could almost be like a personification of the Court of Owls is him taking on like Gotham as a whole. It's the
yeah,
elites that run Gotham and keep Gotham flowing, and he's taking those characters on and taking on Gotham as a actual villain,
I like
which is
that
pretty
idea a
cool.
lot. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
we should write Matt Reeves an email or something.
Yeah.
give him give him our ideas.
Yeah,
Um,
he'd be like spam.
yeah, right. All right, let's see here. We got Drew. What's up, Drew? I think that's how you say that name. I don't know. My dad says, "Good point." Legion of Comics. I don't know what the point that was made.
That Vic
But
was Jason Todd, which that
yeah,
was a good
yeah.
point. That was a good point out.
I think it's almost a wink and a nod to Jason Todd. And then Drew saying Penguin was great, which is surprising based on the mixed reactions to the Batman. I like more of the Penguin. Interesting. What do you think? I feel like there wasn't too much mixed reactions to the Batman. I feel like overall it was pretty positively received. I feel like.
I personally thought it was positively received,
Yeah.
but I've learned since then that I guess a lot of people were upset about it. But
I mean, there's definitely criticisms, and I would honestly say I like the Penguin show more than the Batman film. And I would also say, I didn't necessarily love the Batman. I felt like it was way too long, in my opinion. And
yeah,
I, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Anyhow, I,
different topic for another live stream
yeah,
here.
different time. We'll save the Batman talk for another time. It looks like Drew does not care much about the Batman Part Two. Something I don't agree with. I'm very excited for the Batman Part Two.
Yeah,
And then
especially
let's
Fresh
see.
Out Penguin.
Yeah. Um. Okay, we saw this already. Moose. Definitely like a sudden insecurity thing to kill Al. Yeah. Yeah, I would
Yep,
agree.
yep.
Um, oh, Dr. Elevator. Hey, Dr. Elevator. That abandoned orphanage is the Old Wayne Manor. Is
Okay,
that right?
I I would assume so. I'm pulling like I maybe saw the movie last time I watched it maybe a year ago or a year and
Okay.
a half ago.
I,
I haven't recent watched it.
I watched it. I watched it like within the last 2 weeks, I think. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I don't remember that specifically, but that could 100% be right. I think that would be cool too. If that is
Yeah.
correct. Let's see, Moose. I kind of like the idea of the Court of Owls being in a lingering threat in the background. Yeah, that's kind of. I guess that's kind of what I mean. Is I like the idea of them. There's nods to the Court of Owls and them watching and knowing what's going on. Maybe even like we it's revealed that they kind of orchestrate some things. I think that'd be cool.
Yep.
AS, what's up? Sour Diesel. Hopefully, if they do Court of Owls, they are more of a power player that bring in classic rogues as their assassins. That'd be interesting. Drew, all of the Matt Reeves universe projects outside of the Penguin got canceled so far.
Hmm.
I don't know if they got canceled. I know there was a show about like Gotham Central, which I really think they should still do.
Yeah.
I read Gotham Central about a year ago, a little less, and I loved it. I mean, absolutely loved it. So I feel like they should definitely bring that back. And then I believe there was also talks of a Arkham show, which I think that'd be cool too, or maybe even like combining those two shows in some way.
Yeah.
I think that'd be interesting. So, and then there was rumors of like a Clayface TV show, I think, and like a who's the Professor Pig, right? I think
Hmm.
there's a rumor of that TV show too. So I think there it could just be rumors and they didn't get canceled, but then again they could have got canceled too. Um, that rumor recently that Barry Keegan's Joker would be the villain in part 3. I honestly I think that's what they're alluding
Yeah.
to and
Yeah.
leading towards. Especially with them deleting that scene of the Joker in Batman Part 1. I think they did that for probably a couple reasons. I think definitely one reason would be the Joker fatigue. But then also too, I think they want to kind of save that Joker, you
Yep.
know. I'm sure I would be surprised if we didn't see the Joker in
In
part
part
2.
two. Yep. Same
Yeah.
here.
I would be surprised. Sour Diesel, Court of Owls could serve as a League of Shadows in the Nolan trilogy. Think you mean the Reeves trilogy. Um, what do you think of that? I don't know too much about the League of Shadows, honestly.
League is it. It's like a League of Assassins, pretty much.
Yeah.
But um, I think that's not a bad idea. But I don't know. I go back and forth with the grittiness of the Matt Reeves universe, and almost feel like a um kind of far-fetched character like, Talon, or the Court of Owls, where they're like almost like ninjas, or even like
Mhm.
Clayface, that obviously is like a super powered being, is almost like not fitting. I don't know exactly why, but I just think it's the level that the Matt Reeves Batman film is grounded in reality. I feel like it's like much more grounded than anything we've seen before.
Do you think it's more grounded than the Nolan trilogy?
I do. I do.
See, I don't know if I would agree with that. I feel like the Nolan trilogy is like as grounded as we'll see Batman. Um,
Yep.
but with that being said, they are. I mean, the Batman and the Penguin are definitely grounded as well. I do think there's more of a level of fiction, I suppose you could say, with the Penguin and the Batman. Um, and
Yeah, I
I,
don't know.
I
I,
think
I think it's just the technology that's in like the Nolan verse that, like, for
okay,
example, the Batman, I mean,
sure,
there's really nothing that he used or had in that movie that isn't in existence now, that you couldn't have. Well,
sure,
maybe not you and I, but like the military or whatever it may be. So I just think like that's the part where I just feel like this is like a grounded Batman that has a muscle car as a
yeah,
Batmobile, and an actual wingsuit instead of a cape
yeah,
that turns into bat wings, and stuff like that, and doesn't even really have batarangs, like has like one batarang, but
with
other
this
than that he
symbol,
just
which I like. I think that's
yeah,
cool.
he just
Yeah,
whoops ass instead. That's his superpower of sorts, is to scare people by beating them into a bloody pulp. So I don't know. I just felt it was a lot more grounded than Nolan verse, but I mean, I definitely don't think there's any right or wrong answer of what's
yeah. No,
more
I
or
think
less
it's up for
grounded.
debate. Yeah,
Yeah, it's all subjective end of the day,
yeah,
but
for sure.
I don't know. I just feel like Clayface just wouldn't fit. I don't know why, but I just, Joker, yes, but Clayface and you know
Yeah.
stuff like that, I don't know.
What do you think about a twist on Clayface where he's not this clay monster, but he's this let's say he's an actor who can, change appearance, but realistically, I guess. And maybe I don't know, maybe he uses clay to do that or something.
Yeah.
But it's still it's like twisted in the sense that it still is very much grounded in reality, where it's not full-fledged, Batman comics, I guess.
I think if you did like a master of disguise type of character, which is probably where you'd have to go for like a, realistic Clayface. I think we're like slowly working our way into like Hush territory where, and instead of somebody that uses clay for a mask, it would just be more of like a guy that's a surgeon and can kind of shape and form his face.
Mhm.
So I think like the grounded version of Clayface that they could go is Hush if they really wanted to go that route and have
Okay.
that type of character or foe to exist in the world.
Sure. Okay, interesting. I feel like I see. I would want them to go in a direction of like having a clay monster, right? If they were to do Clayface, but I don't think that's the direction they're going to go in. Like they have not alluded to the paranormal or the
Yeah.
super fictional characters. I guess the villains. So
Mhm.
I can't imagine that's the direction they will go. I think they will if they do like a Clayface. I think they would do something that's much more grounded in reality, kind of like what you said with Hush, and maybe they could combine those characters or whatnot.
Yeah.
But personally, I guess as a Batman fan, um, I would definitely want to see more, uh, you know, out there and paranormal villains personally.
Yeah.
But and maybe that's what we'll get with like the James Gunn's DCU. That
Yeah.
would be cool too. And we can have this. We can have the DCU's Batman be more out there and more facing these Clayface monsters and Killer Croc or whoever, and then the Matt Reeves universe definitely more grounded in reality. Where,
Yeah.
um, it will Matt Reeves. I think they titled this trilogy or this saga. I think they're calling it the Great Crime Saga or something like that.
Hmm.
So I imagine they're definitely gonna just focus, more on the detective noir style that we saw with the first film, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whatnot, which is fine. I'm gonna eat it up anyhow. I'm gonna love it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited regardless. Let's see here. Drew says that we are staying grounded in the universe. A villain like Professor Pig, a realistic character that doesn't need magic. Or say, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool, a Professor Pig. But I almost feel like it would be too similar to the Riddler, you know, in a lot of ways. Like, the Riddler, he like sets up these like saw traps for his victims, essentially. I feel
Yeah.
like Professor Pig maybe want to do that. It'd be more of like a Jason, from Friday the 13th, just like killing people or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm sure they could do something interesting with that character, though.
I think the like obviously if we go the Court of Owls route, I think a
Yeah,
good like shoehorn villain that you could probably fit into the Court of Owls would probably be more Bane. Like I would love to see
okay.
a Bane type character where instead of obviously using Venom to become super massive and strong, we see him just using adrenaline, very similar to that we saw the Batman use at the end of the Batman.
Sure.
And I think that would be really, really cool. And I think it wouldn't be too far fetched for like an elitist militia of sorts
Yeah.
to kind of get a big juice head that shoots himself up with steroids and adrenaline to
Yeah.
kind of do the dirty work and the dirty deed of the Court
Interesting.
of Owls.
Yeah, I wonder if we will see a Bane in this universe. I worry that it would be too much like Tom Hardy's Bane, though, where I feel like his is definitely. I mean, it's very grounded. He's not shooting himself up with. Um, is it Titan? Right, that's the
Venom.
Venom. Um, Titan. I think that's the one from the Arkhamverse.
Arkham
Yeah,
Saga, yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm open to any villains they do. I think they if I had to bet, I would definitely bet on the Court of Owls and Hush being villains that we're gonna see. And then obviously like the Joker.
Yeah.
I think
'Cause-
those are villain, especially like Hush and Court of Owls. I mean, we haven't seen those really in live action. I think that the Court of Owls was in like the Gotham show, but I didn't watch that personally. I don't know if that was received well. I don't think it was. Um,
yeah.
so we have, I guess for a wide audience, we haven't seen, either of those villains. And I imagine that's maybe the more the route they're going to go in.
Plus Thomas Elliot being a surgeon, and obviously putting him then in the realm of the elite, I think that would make Hush pretty fitting too. So I think I think Bane or Hush, but Hush would probably now be the logical decision now that we're kind of talking about it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, he was heavily teased in the Batman too.
Yeah.
I guess really just in one segment where we saw a character, the journalist who was killed by Falcone, that he used as blackmail for Thomas Wayne. His last name was Elliot, and then in that segment we see that, and then we also see written over like newspaper Hush. So it was clearly a nod to that character.
Yeah.
So I imagine we'll see that in some light. Which Hush personally, the comic by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee is like my favorite Batman comic ever. I own the Absolute. I love it. So I mean, I would be interested in seeing that, but honestly, I would say I like that comic so much, really because of the artwork and seeing the Rogues Gallery in like each comic, each issue. And I don't love it because of the Hush character, if that makes sense. Like, I don't find his character super interesting, and
me either.
It's like, cool, but it's not why I read that series, that limited.
And I hope they go a route away from the comics where instead of it being like this unheard of childhood friend of Bruce Wayne, it's just kind of a big name elite of the Court of Owls or something like that.
Cool.
Because I think that's the biggest issue a lot of people have with the Hush comic is that it's like, who is this guy? We're
Get out of the blue.
Yeah, we're supposed to believe he's Bruce Wayne's childhood friend that he's never spoken about in 80 years or whatever of existence. So
sure.
I hope they do away with that if they do Hush.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's read some more comments here. I didn't hate the Batman. It wasn't on the level with Nolan's trilogy, in my humble opinion. I haven't watched the Nolan's trilogy in forever. I remember I was 8 when The Dark Knight came out. And I was visiting my uncle in Kansas City, which I believe The Dark Knight was filmed partially in Kansas City. And me and my dad and brother went to go see it. And within the opening scene with the Joker, I was so scared. I was like, my eyes were closed. I was like, I don't want to watch it. And it's funny because I like dragged my dad and brother to go watch that movie. And within like 5 minutes, I regretted it so much. That Heath Ledger as the Joker, it was the scars that just scared the hell out of me.
Peak Joker. We will never get better than that. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, it will be tough to top it for sure. Yeah. AS says, agree, Gotham Central was great. I mean, I think I could see myself rereading that series like once a year, honestly. Like I love it that much. Sour Diesel meant to say that the League of Shadows and Nolan trilogy, Court of Owls could be the final big bag. Okay, I see. What you're saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Got it. All right, AS. That's how I see it too. The Batman feels like it could actually happen. Yeah. I mean, I think the Nolan trilogy, I feel like it's grounded enough where you kind of believe it could happen too. I guess besides some of like the technology, like you were saying, like the Batwing, like that's. I mean, I don't think we have any technology that
no
could make the Batwing. The Tumbler though, I swear I saw something where Warner Brothers is actually selling replicas of like 8 Tumblers now
for $3 million. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe we should buy one for the show.
Yeah.
Tax write-off. Okay, Moose. That's a good point. Batman had all the military tech from Lucius Fox. Yeah. Okay, so Drew thinks if they're just it seems like if they're not going to commit fully to the Clayface, then they shouldn't do it at all. Which I mean, I think that's a solid argument. Did you watch the Caped Crusader, the Amazon series that just came out? Like,
no, not yet. No,
you should watch it. There's a version of Clayface that is different. it's more grounded. Not fully grounded, like, it's definitely still kind of out there, and I don't know if that version even would fit in this Matt Reeves universe. But it's interesting because Matt Reeves produced that show. So maybe he's hinting at, maybe this is kind of a version of Clayface that we'll see. I would definitely watch that show. That was a lot of fun. Sour Diesel, Eve Carlo was a nod to Clayface and the Penguin. Yes, I believe that's true. And I see a lot of rumors and theories that Clayface or this version of Clayface in this universe will be connected to Eve in some way, which, that could be the case. My guess would be that it was more just a wink and a nod to that character. Dr. Elevator, did you guys notice Penguin's girlfriend? Okay, yeah.
Same thing,
Drew, can't wait for James Gunn's take. I'm excited too. I haven't read Batman and Robin by Grant Morrison. I believe that's what he said is like a big influence of the Brave and the Bold, the movie they're doing, which I will have to read that at some point.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not crazy about Grant Morrison. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like some of his work comes off a little pretentious, almost like he's just trying to be out there and confusing just because he can. And if you like that storytelling, awesome. I personally don't like that type of storytelling.
I think Morrison as a writer is 10 out of 10 or 0 out of 10. No in between. That's just how it is.
What would you think? What would you say is Batman and Robin by him? Do you think that's like one of his more approachable works? Would you say?
Yeah. I would say that's pretty, or not as Morrison-y as a lot of people coin it as.
Got it. Yeah, I've read Doom Patrol by him, which is not. It's definitely out there and super wacky, but with those characters, I feel like it fits more so. It makes sense. But so I did enjoy his run with Doom Patrol. I thought that was pretty reader friendly for Morrison. I guess you could say.
I agree.
Sour Diesel, between Reeves and Gunn, will ideally be getting best of both. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah. I think that's exactly my thoughts. Where with James Gunn's universe, we're going to see more of a fictional Batman, more out there facing, Killer Croc, Clayface, and then with the Matt Reeves universe, we're going to see a much more grounded Batman, which I think that would be great, because I don't think we need another grounded Batman at this point. I think at this point it's just overkill. So if I was in James Gunn's shoes, I would definitely go more the fantastical route with Batman.
Yep.
Drew, don't give me Bane until he's a hulking CGI Venom. I kind of agree with Drew here. Not that I wouldn't be, if they do a Bane with this Matt Reeves universe, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. But I do kind of want to see almost like that Batman Arkham Asylum and that Arkhamverse Bane, where he's just almost like comically jacked, know?
Yeah.
I just think that would be interesting.
I just think we've seen that, like, I don't know, so often, whether it comes to like other forms of media or movies, and it's like, I don't know, it'd be so interesting to just have kind of a, I don't know, grounded, just roided out freak, like freak of nature, where he's still big, but he's not, CGI Hulk size big. But Drew seems like the type where he's like all or nothing. Don't give me the character.
It does seem like that.
A comic character.
Yeah. I respect it. I
do too, yeah.
Sour Diesel says they would have to change up Hush a lot to different. I agree with this too. Because I feel like if they do Hush in the sequel, it's just gonna feel like more of the same with the Riddler. And I'm not gonna enjoy that too much.
Yeah.
So I do think they need to switch it up quite a bit.
I agree.
let's see, Drew, Batman and Robin by Peter Tomasi is better. That's what I hear too. But Morrison's Batman stuff is straight and forward and a must read. Yeah, I haven't read. I feel like I've read like an issue of Batman and Robin by Tomasi. But that's definitely like I want to get that omnibus and check that out for sure.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Batman run ever.
Is that right?
Yep.
Now that's with not Dick Grayson. Who's the
Damian.
Damian Wayne. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So it starts off pre Flashpoint with actually Dick Grayson as Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin, and then it picks up post Flashpoint with Bruce as Batman and Damian as Robin, and that portion of the story is really good because just the confrontation and the friction between, you know, Batman, who has his one rule of no killing, and Robin, who is trained to kill, is just beyond stellar. So amazingly done, and the art can be hit or miss in some issues, but typically it's pretty solid. But the writing is like amazing.
And I can go into that, you know, without reading anything before, right?
Yeah. I mean, you might be a little lost with the Dick Grayson as Batman portion, but once you get past, you know, or post Flashpoint into the New 52, then you're solid. You're good to go after that.
Cool. Moose says he loves Doom Patrol. I do too. Did you watch the show, Moose, or did you read any of the comics? Because I did not watch the show, which I hear is the show is good, but I've only read Morrison's run. So I'm not too sure. Let's see. If they get the mountain actor from Game of Thrones to play Ground and Bane, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I think that would work. I think that would work for sure. Okay, and then Moose both. Okay, cool. Yeah, who else has written Doom Patrol that has been positively received? I'm trying to think. I know there's another omnibus out there that is supposed to be pretty good too.
I can't remember her name, but
I can't remember either.
But I do know who you're talking about. And then there's also a kind of wacky and zany run by good Lord. What's his name from My Chemical Romance?
Oh gosh, I can't remember either. He did Umbrella Academy, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just talking about this the other day.
Let me look it up.
I hate when that happens.
I know. Jared Way.
Jared Way. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, okay, Drew beat me to it. I Googled it. Jared, yeah, okay. I didn't know that actually. I'm sure that's pretty good. Did you read Umbrella Academy?
Yes. Yep.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it's a little out there. I mean, I would say it's a little mostly on par with the show as far as like the out there-ness.
Sure.
I think the show has some parts that are even more out there, but the comic is definitely like, if you don't like wacky and zany, then it may not be, you know, a title for you to read.
Yeah. I watched the first season of the show of Umbrella Academy, and I struggled to get into it. And I think it was some of the actors I did not like their presence on screen. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily mind like out there and wacky and whatnot. So I may have to try to give that a shot at some point. Tomasi was great on Rebirth, Superman, and Super Sons. That's what I hear. I hear Super Sons is really good. Yep. Moose says, I like the show. I'm sure. Are you referring to Doom Patrol? I'll have to try to check it out.
Yeah, I watched season 1, but I kind of stopped after that, so I gotta pick that back up.
Yeah, I think I watched maybe like one episode or something after I read the Grant Morrison's run. Sour Diesel, do you know what's going on with DC Black Labor's Garfield? I'm not sure. Is that a typo, you think?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on
Sour Diesel. Let me know what you mean. First 2 runs of Umbrella Academy was great and weird. After that, it's hit and miss. Got it.
I would 100% agree. Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a go at some point. Um, all right, why don't we talk about comics for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, unless do you have to go or anything?
No,
Okay.
I'm enjoying myself. Yeah.
All right, let's switch over to comics. And I did make I just made some notes here. Um, so out of the three, what one would you say you like the best?
As far as like the absolute universe,
Mhm. Out of the trio, what one do you think had the best start
if I had to rank them, I would
Mhm.
say Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman
from first to or
from first
best to
to,
worst?
to third. Yep.
Really? See, I would go Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, that first
Yeah,
issue.
I don't say that surprisingly. Like I enjoyed Wonder Woman a lot. It's just
Mhm.
it seems like the common consensus is Batman is what most people think is the best, and then secondary by a close margin is Superman. Not I haven't seen a lot of people love Wonder Woman, like they like it, but they're not like, oh, this is the best of the absolute
Sure.
universe. So you saying that was actually pretty impressive and surprising.
Yeah, I would say the only gripe I really have with Wonder Woman is it felt way too short, like by far the shortest out of the 3.
Mhm.
Um, and then also too, I'm just not sure where they're going with it. Like I don't necessarily see the vision, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. Obviously it's going to keep me kind of surprised, but I don't know. As a reader, I do kind of like to guess and predict. Okay, where's the story going? And
Yeah.
I don't know. And to be completely frank with you, I have not read any other Wonder Woman books. Like this is my first introduction to
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. I've heard um oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on her name now.
Gail
She
Simone.
wrote yes. Uh Gail Simone, her run is fantastic. Um so and that's been kind of on my reading list forever now. I just haven't gotten around to it. But as far as like okay, this is the title I'm going to keep up with. Wonder Woman for sure tops it. Like I love the art style. By far my favorite out of the three. I didn't write down the artist's name either. I should have. Um, it just felt the most fresh to me out of the three. Like
Hmm.
Absolute Batman was good. Both were, or all three were good. You know, I would say Superman definitely my least favorite. I'm not crazy about Superman in general, and I have read Superman before, kind of the flagship titles. So maybe I just need to read more of Superman. I don't know.
Right.
Um, but it felt a little boring and slow at times. Like I like the part when they're on Krypton
Mhm.
and it's that world. Like I want a title just following the world of Krypton and in that power struggle and the class divide. Like I thought that was by far the most interesting part.
I
And
agree.
then when we go to Earth, I was like, it's good, but it's not like amazing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I
So
think my expectations going into the absolute title was or any absolute title
mhm,
was that I just wanted different,
mhm,
and I think the way that I enjoyed them like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman is how different and fresh I found them. Like Superman
okay.
I thought was from the world building to the class system to Superman's like body language and kind of his how he kind of sees and views the world was
Yeah.
just so different. It was so far away from Superman in the main DC universe.
Okay.
And then Batman again, a not super rich guy, he works as a like a project manager or a architect or whatever he was and is big and hulking, not a ninja or anything like that. And I thought that was again super fresh. Plus Alfred's character, which was really different. And then,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, I just kind of felt like, it was still Amazon based. It was still
Sure.
Themyscira based. It still had that, pantheon and supernatural elements that we see in every Wonder Woman story. So I think that's why I enjoyed them in that
Interesting.
that order. But Superman really impressed me on how different it really was.
Interesting. See, I'm wondering if, because I mean, I feel like you have way more experience with reading Superman and Batman, probably all three, more so
Mhm.
than me. You know, like I said, I've never read Wonder Woman before this. I've read Superman and Batman. So it's interesting that like this being kind of my first introduction to Wonder Woman. Like obviously I've seen the movies, I know the character,
Yeah.
but this is my first time really sitting down and reading the character. This is the one I find most interesting. Whereas you, being kind of, let's say, more of an experienced reader with these characters, it's the reverse.
Yep.
So that is interesting. And I would say for Absolute Batman, it, it's interesting that you said that he's more bulking, which he's jacked, like he's huge
Yeah.
in the book,
Yeah.
like almost comically huge.
Yeah.
Um, which I like, and it's thinking about it, it's like, okay, yeah, it makes sense that he would be bigger, you know, because he did not go train with the League of Shadows and whatnot. You know,
Yeah.
he's been at a gym for the last 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
whatever, just bulking up. Um, so that is interesting. That's something I just connected in my head. And then I do like Alfred in the Absolute Batman. I do
Yeah.
think his twist, I guess, is interesting, and I'm excited to see where that goes. If he will become, I feel like it's leading towards him being almost like a mentor for the Batman, which that could be completely wrong, but it, his hesitation to kind of step in and try to take out Batman when his superiors are saying step in, we don't take this guy out already. It seems like he's gonna maybe kind of fall into that mentor role.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. I agree.
and I do like the villain in Absolute Batman. I find him to be pretty um, menacing, almost.
Yeah. Yep.
You
I,
know,
I, I agree.
yeah. And I like how he brings. I think it was Falcone and Maroni onto this
Hmm.
yacht and whatever, and how he just kills him right. You know, right. Like there are. I feel like usually with like origin stories for Batman and whatnot, it's drawn out more so where there's this switch between old crime, right, with the mobsters to this new
Yep.
villains, right, with Joker, Two Face, Penguin, and that tends to be more drawn out, like with the Long Halloween, right? Um, and even with like the Batman film, right? Like that film to me is like, and even the Penguin almost is Gotham transitioning into having more of these rogues galleries that are more zany and out there, and
Yep.
so different from the traditional villain. But I like in this book how they just kill them off. Like, okay, no, this is the new villain of this universe. Like, we're just going for it.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that, and I do think they did a good job setting him up as a or that I don't. I can't even remember the villain's name now. Actually, do you remember?
Uh,
It's
what's
Animal something. I know
I know
there's.
people kept calling him Black Mask, but I know he isn't Black Mask.
Although he does kind of resemble Black Mask.
I have
Um,
the issue right there. I could look, but I'm just too lazy.
That's all right. Someone will comment in the chat here and let us know. Um, so yeah, and I find it interesting what they're doing with the Rogues Gallery and how it seems to be all about like these animals,
Yeah.
where I believe Bruce Wayne and the Jim Crew or whatever. It seems to be all his villains that are based off of animals: Killer Croc, Penguin. We
Yep.
got Catwoman. I don't know who else. I can't remember now. And then also the villains are, um,
Animal
what's
skulls.
what is it?
The animal skulls that they wear and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I find that interesting. Why, and I'm wondering why it's they're just doing kind of the animals, but
Well, if you noticed, which I think
Mhm.
is a good paying of homage to the story that Scott Snyder's like already doing, and he's like paying homage to himself in his own issue, which is cool. But the little school shooting that leads to the death of Bruce Wayne's
Yeah,
father took place at a zoo. So it
right, yeah, yeah,
was
yeah,
again animal related or oriented. So I think that's pretty cool, and those little details that you're noticing and stuff, I think that's just more and more of him just kind of establishing this world and universe, and these characters that we already know, but these are just little, tweaked versions of them, which
Yeah.
I really liked, and I liked how it kind of all revolved around animals, and I'm interested to see where that goes.
Me too. I will say that, and I do think, like I said, the villains are so menacing. Like nobody's off limits, Um, so I find that interesting. And what I feel like, at least me, like I can't remember what happened to Martha Wayne. Did she
Mhm.
die? Obviously, she did, but like, do we see that in the book? I don't think so, unless I'm mistaken.
No, you kind of, I don't
Is
know,
it
kind of
alluded to at all?
yeah, yeah, kind of in a way when you see the farm and everything like that, but I don't think it's like on screen or anything like that by any means, or on screen,
Sure. Yeah. On page. Yeah.
on panel.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I will say I don't know if I'll keep up with that like monthly, which
Yeah.
I usually don't. I usually like to just like read a chunk. So if the first trade comes out, maybe I'll check it out and read it. But I may continue to read Wonder Woman. That's the one where um, I may pre-order and make sure I check it out month to month.
I
Let's
just
see.
put together now that Drew's commenting, when you said Martha, you
Yeah.
meant you meant Batman's mom.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you thought I meant Martha Kent.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry.
no, you're
Miscommunication
good. You're
there.
good. Okay. So she's alive, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
She do we see her at all in the comic? Like, am I just
No, it's
forgetting a
it's
big chunk?
all Bruce Wayne's dad at the zoo, so yeah.
Huh.
And
Okay.
then
Well,
or no, I'm sorry, you do see her in like it's like a little panel where
oh,
Bruce comes home from work and like gives her money and hangs out with her or
yeah.
something like
Okay. I
that.
remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I wonder why. I wonder why she's kept alive. I guess we'll see where that goes.
It's very different. I mean, I kind
It
of
is.
like
Yeah.
it. Like it's weird that I like it, but I like a Batman that has connections that can be exploited or kind of delved into through the story. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Because I feel like I we don't really see that with Batman a lot. Where like let's say with like Spider-Man, we see that a villain has found out his secret identity and you know went after Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy or whoever it may. Whereas Batman, we don't really see that, and I think reason being is he doesn't really have anyone but like Alfred,
I mean,
and
we've seen it in like a handful of stories, and those are all like super memorable stories. From
Mhm.
Death of the Family to Death in the Family to Tom King's run and what happens to Alfred
Sure,
and
yeah,
Killing Joke. All these times that Batman's Bat family was attacked, but it's not something that happens like super often. I think that's mainly because of shock value. Like they don't want to have like, every month, Batgirl gets shot at or something like
sure,
that. So I get it, but it is nice to have like something so close to home, like Bruce Wayne's mother, which is a lot different than, a orphan that you raise to be Robin or Barbara Gordon or anything like
yeah,
that. So it's going to be a nice little breath of fresh air that he has something that important to him to that level.
yeah. That's interesting, and I think issue 2 is out. Did you read that yet?
No, nope. I'm not going to dive into. I've cut myself off. I said issue one of the three, and then I'm done. I'm not
That's
touching
it.
it again.
So let me ask you, kind of a sidebar. Do you don't so you don't collect issues? You don't collect floppies?
No, no. I
Yeah.
used to for a very long time, and then I went into trade paperbacks, and then
Mhm.
I went into hardcovers and omnibuses, and I kept myself super strict and told myself I will not read single issues or trade
Yeah.
paperbacks, and here I am talking about trade paperbacks and single issues. So broke that rule,
Gotcha.
but I'm keeping myself limited to single issues. I can't go
Overindulge
deep
yourself.
into that again. Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
broke by Friday if that's the case.
I get that. It's interesting because the way I got into comics, and I guess we're just kind of not talking about absolute, whatever. But I started out just reading trade paperbacks, so that's really the only way I know of. I guess the only way I know of collecting them is through collected editions,
Mhm.
And I've
Yep.
kind of upgraded where I do try to only do like deluxes or omnibuses now. Um, which obviously that's more expensive, but I just try to pace it out more so I'm not
Yeah.
dropping
Yep.
$100 each week or more even. Um, so I've never really gotten into collecting single issues. It's just I don't know. For me, I like to sit down and be able to read, a full story or a good chunk of a full story. Let's say
Yep.
in a single issue. For me, it's like reading month to month. I'm gonna forget so much, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's just not going to be as impactful for me if I just if I just don't read it all at once almost. Um,
Yeah. I did it when I was younger, and I think that was because it was like, a easier pill to swallow week to week was,
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
back then comics were like, I don't even know, like $1.89 or something like that. So, I could get a handful of comics, and the way I paid for them was with my lunch money. I wouldn't eat lunch, and I would, run to the comic book store, and I would have, $5, and I would be able to buy a decent stack of 5 books, if not more, if I
sure.
saved up. But yeah, so I mean, I think now that I'm older and I've like adult money and all that stuff, I agree. I sit and read a full length story.
Yeah,
But I think it's all like within the means. I definitely think there's some charm to the weekly and monthly series, and getting excited, to go to the LCS and pick
mhm.
up your stack and read it and re-establish that world once again that week and stuff. So I do miss it a lot. There are positives to it.
Yeah. No, I get that. I don't know. For me, it's like I'm always just on to the next thing almost, you
Yeah.
know? And there's like a couple series that I do want to collect monthly, like Saga is one that I collect monthly. Even well, it sucks now because I'm at a place where I don't really have a local LCS, which kind of sucks. So I either have to order it like on Amazon or some other, website or whatever, or just buy digitally, which I don't like to do. But I mean, reading digitally is nice sometimes. I
Yeah.
will admit, I do like it.
Yeah.
It's just so much more efficient, especially just like being able to like lay in bed and not have this like hulking thing on you.
Yeah.
It's a lot nicer. But yeah, I mean, like Saga, I wouldn't mind collecting Something's Killing the Children monthly. If I'm being honest, really only like independent comics I'd
Mhm.
want to collect, monthly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. So I guess back to the absolutes. I guess maybe the only one we really did hit on was we did hit on Superman, but not a whole lot. I will say I did like the parallels between Earth and Krypton. Now
Mhm.
it's it's the same thing essentially. Where there's
Yep.
this clear class division. Um, so I did like that, and I do think that's. I mean that is very true to today's world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's something I will continue to read though. For me it just did not. It just did not spark a huge interest like Wonder Woman. Let's say.
Yeah.
Um, But, it was enjoyable, but I'd much rather read it, if I were to, all at once in a collected edition of some sort.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know. I feel like the one drawback of Superman, even though that was, the one that I liked the most, is that it does feel a lot more dense. It does feel like you got to get a lot more tires moving to kind of, you got the Krypton aspect, you got the
Yeah,
class system, you got then at Earth, what's going on there. So I don't
there's
think
more
it's
moving
as
parts.
friendly to pick up and read.
Sure.
So I definitely understand that. I mean, I can imagine that being like kind of a drawback as far as Superman goes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do think like Wonder Woman is a much more straightforward book so far,
Yeah.
where it's, in my opinion, pretty new reader friendly, you
Hmm.
know? Not to say that, Superman and Batman aren't. I would definitely say, they are to some degree, but out of the 3, I think Wonder Woman is the most new reader friendly.
I would agree.
And it's more, I don't wanna say it's more simple, but I guess it's more straightforward, you know?
Yes.
Um, and for me, I don't know, it reads differently than any other superhero book that I've, usually read, I guess. Feels, I don't wanna say it feels more indie, but in some ways it does. Like, I, uh, I almost think of it in a similar vein as to, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that book by Tom King, and the artwork is very similar, so I don't know if it's the same artist or not.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is either, but they do kinda look similar, at least to me. Um, so I don't know, that's the one that just, to me, it just seemed the most interesting.
Yeah,
Um, and like I
that's
said, I
interesting.
may
I like that. I kind of like you liking that because, like I said, I haven't seen it championed as much as the other two, and
other 2,
obviously
yeah,
Superman, Batman get like
the
way
biggest
more
break.
attention.
Yeah, yeah.
They're the two most popular characters at DC, but it's nice to hear Wonder Woman getting hyped up for sure.
Yeah, and from my understanding, it's just gonna be, at least this arc, I'm sure it's successful, which I think all 3 have been relatively successful.
Oh yeah.
They'll do more, but, it seems like there's gonna be 5 issues of just this specific arc.
Hmm.
So, that will be interesting to see, kinda where it ends. Um, so yeah, anything else to add with those? I don't think I have anything. I
No,
think we're good.
not until we get more absolute titles to come out.
Yeah,
With absolute Green Lantern, absolute Flash. We had absolute Martian Manhunter announced at New York Comic Con. So we're gonna be eating good as far as the absolute universe comes. But all we have right now is obviously those 3 titles. So
yeah. I am intrigued to see what they do with other characters.
yeah,
Like I would check out Absolute Green Lantern. I would read all 3, Martian Manhunter and, The Flash and Green Lantern. I think that'd be interesting to see what they do with that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. We had a couple more comics or comments here. Omnibus Addict. What's up, gang? What's up? Drew says she shows up at the end in issue 2. Just her as friends with Jim Gordon. Okay. He's referring
Interesting.
to,
Cool. I like that.
Batman. Cool. And then we got my buddy Jack. What's up, Jack? Thank you for tuning in. Um, yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm kind of out of things to say, I guess, right now. I feel like we talked about the 2 things we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I mean,
What
we beat Penguin to death. I think we were at
Oh
like
my gosh. I feel
an
like there's
hour and
still
a
more
half
to
mark.
add to that too. I do feel like there's more to say with that. Um, Nick D says hi. What's up, Nick D? How are you? Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate that. Um, I think I don't know. You want to end it, wrap it up here? We've been going
Yeah, I
for over
mean,
2 hours.
yeah. Yeah, I think
You
we
know,
knocked it out of the park. I mean, I just gotta eat and stuff like that, but I'm cool with it.
cool. Yeah, I guess we'll talk about kind of what we're gonna do for next week. And then go from there. Do you want to still do 6 p.m.? What are you thinking?
Yeah, we can aim for that. Yep.
You want to aim for that for now on? Yeah, yeah. We'll see if yeah. I mean, we'll test it out, I guess,
Yep.
and see. Um, okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Please go subscribe to Illumin Nerdy. Let me try to get your channel up real quick. I think I put a link in the description. Let me see here. No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Yep.
Oh, I did. I'll put one in the comments here too. Okay. Please go check out his channel, subscribe, show your love. He's got a lot of cool videos. And yeah, thanks for joining me, Illuminati. I appreciate it. It was a
Yeah,
lot of fun. I enjoyed myself.
it was. I want to rewatch the Batman, the Penguin now.
We should talk about the Batman soon. We can
Yes.
we can add that to the roster because I like I said, I just rewatched that maybe I don't know a couple weeks ago, but I'd rewatch it again. I do enjoy it.
Well, I think like the Penguin being fresh in my mind, I think us going into that would then
Yeah,
just like we would be picking up on like even more little
for
layers
sure.
and stuff.
Yeah, and I guess for the comic, we could try to do like the Long Halloween or so
Yeah,
something that kind of is adjacent to the Batman film.
the story. Yeah, that works.
All right, awesome. Well, I will talk to you soon, and thanks again for tuning in, everyone. And yeah, have a good night. All right.
Good night, everyone.